marketing is going to change dramatically in the upcoming months and years when it comes to a debtor practice, a bankruptcy debtor practice. And what we're talking about specifically, I want to talk about how we're going to be training these AI agents in conversing with the debtor. Each of you have leads that have called your office, that have started the intake process, that didn't show up to their call, didn't show up to their retainer appointment. And a lot of times, debtor attorneys feel it's a missed opportunity. But no, that's not the case. You're going to see that people ripen on their own time. And all of you know this inherently. I just want to walk you through the logic around it. See, the thing is, the advantage I have, I don't file cases. I'm not a lawyer. I don't deal with paralegals. All I do is think of the debtor. Every single day, I'm asking myself, what motivates the debtor to file faster? Because the profitability of any bankruptcy firm out there, is the speed to filing. Lead comes in, files in 3 months. It's infinitely more profitable than 6 months or 9 months. It's the speed to filing is where the profit is. And how do you get a debtor to take that next step? Last year, I had this epiphany. I said, what if I didn't have to talk to debtor attorneys about how much they want to spend in advertising? Because it's always a hard conversation. Well, how much you want to spend? And they're like, well, I want to spend on success. And it's like this back and forth. And I was like, okay, great. I know what works and what doesn't work. So I start spending my own money in advertising. These are leads that are owned by 720, not by DeVries Law Firm, for example. So Sean, for example, he spends an X number of leads every month. We set the appointment. We give them to him. But at the same time, on a side note, I'm buying leads on my own that I can develop and nurture over the years and over the months so I can turn them into viable, ripe leads ready to fight. So in January, we generated and transferred more leads that were owned by our firm than all our other attorneys combined. And the reason why I bring that up is I put my money where my mouth is. These are Phil Tirone dollars that I'm spending on advertising on debtor leads to convert. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to convert in the next 3 weeks, but you're going to hear my thesis on how I convert them over time. We set about 100,000 appointments every year for our debtor attorneys, 100,000. We've done over 20,000 full intakes. This is where it's a 77 questionnaire. A non-attorney paralegal is with these people and they're talking to them, unpacking everything about the debtor. We take a debit card, we hand it over to the debtor attorney in a filing appointment. Completely shifts the intake because now the debtor attorney doesn't have to qualify the lead. They have to just confirm everything that's brought in and then sign them up. And last year we had a debtor attorney, he was going to close down his practice. But I looked at the stats. I'm like, this doesn't work. Like his stats should work. This should be a profitable bankruptcy attorney. And he himself says it, Josh Green in Utah, that he was going to close down his practice. We took over the intake. I called John Orcutt, one of my mentors, one of the well-known bankruptcy attorneys in the country. And I said, how do you handle retainers for non-attorney paralegals? He gave me all his language, all his disclosures. We changed the fee agreement for Josh Green's law firm. And we took the intake, we took the retainer, and he's having his bankruptcy practice completely shifted. We've done over 300 of those signed retainers. My point of this whole thing is I don't file cases. I study the debtor mindset. This is all I do. So I really want to think, and I invite you guys to rethink the lead, the debtor lead, and rethink the nurturing sequence and rethink the ripening process. So if I go to an apple tree and I pick an apple that's a little green and it's hard to pull off, I bite on it, it's bitter. If I wait 3-4 weeks, that same apple's on the ground, right? Too early, too late. It's about being in front of the debtor when they're ripe and when they're there, when they're ready. And at some point, the beautiful thing is AI will be there for us understanding this and chatting and doing this all within Glade. And that is being practiced. I mean, we are practicing internally. Intakes done by AI, calls being done by AI. We're trying it all, but nothing's at that point where it's actually better than humans. But this ripening process is real, and we can't force the debtor. The debtor has all these different experiences. They were told growing up their entire life on how you can never file bankruptcy because it's immoral, right? It's unfair. Oh my God, you owe this money. You need to pay for it. And they will go down dying on that vine because their parents taught them that. They're embarrassed. They're concerned. Every reason. I don't have to review with you. But what we have to do is systematically break this down little by little. Now, one of the ways we're going to do it, let's talk about this Google phenomenon, right? I talked to Nate. Nate has single-handedly, with Clark in Washington, started 18 offices. I'm talking like building the offices for Clark in Washington. We all know Clark in Washington. I mean, they are a seismic firm. They spearheaded bifurcation. They're named in that opinion in the Middle District of Florida, right? I said to him, what do you do when you go into a new market? Start with Google. It's the easiest way to do it, right? And yes, 50% of Google leads are going to come in and opt in. 50% are going to be phone if you do a pay-per-click, or you go LSA. That's great. And I agree, Google's an important part of the landscape of a debtor attorney. Just keep one thing in mind. At that moment, that is the easiest time for the client to shop, that moment. Because they put in their name, and that call costs you $100, $125 unqualified, and if you challenge it, it's 60 days to get paid back. And then if they don't like what you say or the agent's wrong, Mary and I were talking about your call center, and the lady's saying, do you handle bills? And you're listening to the recording. Well, yeah, I don't know. We handle bills. You get the wrong call center, the wrong trained agent, and boom, that $125 is gone. And guess what that debtor's doing? Backtracking and calling the next person. Google's great, but it's a hard conversion, and you better be on it. My argument that you'll see is that social media is easier, and it'll pull a lower cost per retain every single time if you're patient. If you're worried about revenue in 90 days, go to Google. If you're worried about revenue in 6 months, 9 months, a year, social media is going to win, and it's going to win every single time because of the nurturing process. You can take your past clients and load them in to social media, and you can tell them where to serve ads to. Like, we've taken our hundreds and hundreds of thousands of 7 steps to 720 credit score clients. We've taken our millions of leads and uploaded to Facebook and said, hey, send to people who look like this and not to look at people like this. And this is a type of ad that I'm talking about.
This is what I've been saying, people. It's like nobody believes me. It's like you don't even believe that I've been a lawyer for 27 years. Yes, you can buy cars. Yes, you can do the things. Bankruptcy is a way out of hell.
The whole concept of direct to camera, let me get all dressed up, let me look at the camera, and an attorney explaining what Chapter 7 bankruptcy is, does not move the needle. The concept of this is learn more. Learn more. All we want to do is raise the hand. We want like proxies of like, is this person interested or not? And we get their name, email, and phone number. We bought this Facebook marketing group, and the whole concept is telling the story of what happens in bankruptcy. And I got stats for you that's interesting on this. 2-to-1 ratio, more people download the information on this group. When people come into the funnel, we get their name, we contact them, we nurture them. From a 2-to-1, they download, tell me about my future after bankruptcy, than how to file bankruptcy. Okay? I want you to think about that. Tell me my future after bankruptcy, right? We have influencers around the country that tell their story, and it's this direct-to-camera, user-generated content, and when they're ready to talk to the lawyer. We have debtors that go on. This lady right here, 4.3 million views. She was a debtor, filed bankruptcy. I said, you want to tell your story? Tells her story, 4.3 million views later. She only has 19,000 followers. She'd upset 600 appointments for us in 1 month. It's real and genuine, and then it goes to our webpage, right? All we're trying to do is solve the problem to identify who has a problem. They know who has a problem, and a lot of people are going straight for the call, straight for the retain, straight for the close. That's not always it has to be. So then what we do is we start going into nurturing, like what's on the people's minds. They're overwhelmed, right? So I'm giving an example of what we do with coded programs right now. Obviously, a lot of this is going to be changed when it's automated, right? But this is how we're training the agents. This is what will happen. What we do, we go out 1,567 days. Like, think about that, 1,500 days, 4 years. Why would you go out 4 years? Because people respond to the emails. We started with 6 months. And in month 5, they're still responding. We just keep on expanding. And we've learned what to talk about. And we talk about what the debtor's thinking. Few things you should know. If you're feeling overwhelmed, this may help. Okay? You guys do all this. The system's rigged. Banks and creditors profit when people stay in debt. Answer the most common questions. This email is packed with answers and resources to help you understand. Please listen to recording. My proudest moment, when Travis bought a home, Chapter 7 debtor, 2 years and 2 days after bankruptcy. And he tells a story how he's embarrassed. He was embarrassed to file for his family. And then I want to point something out we're doing. We're tying people to a YouTube channel, Bankruptcy Explained. These YouTube videos that we have are what people are searching. They're worried, right? The ultimate 341 mock. We posted it 5 months ago, 8,900 views, right? Dave Ramsey versus bankruptcy. People are typing in, why is Ramsey not like bankruptcy? Debt settlement scams, searching for student loan bankruptcies, et cetera, et cetera. Once again, everything is going to find a lawyer. These people need to be nurtured over time. And a lot of debtor attorneys, they have email drip sequences in place, but they may have not changed the copy since they initially wrote the email. Does that resonate with anybody? The practicality is, this is where, AI is going to take this all away from us. But right now, this is something that you can do right now with your practices. So fear gets the call, the future gets the file. Fear gets the call, the future gets a file. And this is how you do it. You disrupt it with small patterns.
When you file bankruptcy with us, we're going to give you free enrollment into 7 steps to a 720 credit score.
Absolutely free, no cost. We just had a client who bought a home 2 years and 2 days after bankruptcy. You went through 720, right? You're pivoting. Oh, by the way, when you start your bankruptcy.
Oh, by the way, when you start your bankruptcy, we're going to want to do a car audit with you
to see if you need to get a new car now or after the bankruptcy. It's like, what do you mean? Wait, during a bankruptcy, I can get a car? Getting a car is like a get out of jail free card, but the debtor doesn't understand that. The debtors don't realize how you can cram down the loan. They don't realize what's going to happen with the interest, but you need to bring this up in a unique way that gets them thinking differently. You need to break the pattern, right? Break the pattern of thinking of debt. So it's just those simple nuances. And then you tie it all in. So you have the emails. You incorporate text messaging. Many of you are incorporating text messaging into your practice right now. But I just point out, texting needs to be like nudges, like small nudges, like, hey, checking in on your debt. How's that going with you? Right? Like nudges. Because the last thing we want to do is have people unsubscribe or hit the stop button, because then we lose the price. We already paid for the lead, right? So they're just little nudges. You got the emails. You got the text messaging. Obviously, some of you have your staff calling, but at some point, especially with volume firms, the volume of leads, it's impossible to call and call and call. It doesn't work from that perspective because of the volume of leads you're dealing with. Nudge text, non-aggressive, avoid the opt-outs. And you're going to get these real-time responses, right? When you're in the intake strategies, it's all about future pacing. You want to focus on the speed to filing. The speed to filing will come when they understand their future, car, home, and what their life looks after bankruptcy. And really, that's the concept. The concept that I want to point out. Just lead with the future and not with the fear. Show life after bankruptcy. Position bankruptcy as a tool for rebuilding, not failure, right? But acknowledge the stress and overwhelm. Free, no pressure things. 7 steps to 720 credit score. The car audit. All this stuff is free. Everything we're talking about are like little nuances. text messages, future focus, education over promotion, normalize the bankruptcy experience, remove the shame. Long-term sequences. And these people, when they are ready, they will respond. And when they're ready, they will say to you, they will talk to you like they're your friends. They really will. You're going to be like, they're going to, oh my God, I'm so glad we finally got to meet. Right. And that is something that we see happen all the time in our responses. And then the most important thing, without a question, is aligning the message upon all touch points. We deal with this internally, where we take an intake and the attorney is not reinforcing what we're talking about. It makes it very, very difficult, right? Like everyone needs to be on the same page each and every way. When I started here, I thought that it was all fear that drove it. I really did, until I started looking at the numbers. I realized that's not the case. Fear gets the call, future gets the filing. And the best part about it, when they buy their car, when they buy their home, when they raise their credit score, they become walking billboards because they're redeemed. They're redeemed in the marketplace. They don't have to be embarrassed as being a debtor. But they need to be something to brag about. And let me tell you something. As you all know, you've all seen it with your debtor clients. When they get a car or they get a house after their bankruptcy, they're not even thinking about the bankruptcy anymore. They're telling people about it. And I just want to remind everyone, in case you don't know, you can get a home loan after Chapter 7, 2 years FHA financing, 3.5% down, 2 years after discharge. Okay? There's down payment assistance programs that debtors with a bankruptcy can get in sometimes to pay for their down payment. Maybe that's unbelievable. No one's talking about that. When a lead comes in, I'm all about closing them to retain today and move forward. Like, I'm not saying in any capacity, don't work that lead. No, we got to work the lead because we got to pay for marketing, we got to pay for profitability, et cetera, et cetera. But for the most part, it's somewhere between the meaty part of this bell curve is 3 to 6 months. That's where the meat is, right? I talked to one of the largest filers in Texas 2 weeks ago, and he told me, I was floored. And he told me after 3 weeks, we don't really aggressively work the lead. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, we work it really hard for 3 weeks. And he calling and emailing and texting. But I was like, oh, wow, I was shocked that there are, very, very successful debtor firms, extremely successful debtor firms that are not doing simple follow-up, simple email marketing, simple text marketing. And this stuff is not expensive. We can do it all for you. We can do it all for you. And if you don't want to pay us, we can do it pay on success. This is easy things. We have a lot of clients in the room that we actually do it for right now. So, this is not something that is difficult to set up if you don't have the bandwidth.